What's up guys, my name is Hector and today I'm going to show you how to pass the roof framing inspection for your ADU. Before I begin the tour, I want to thank the homeowner for giving me access to film his beautiful project. I think when I film these projects, it just helps the next homeowner build their ADU, whether they're hiring a company or they're doing it by themselves. At least now they know the steps that it takes to pass the framing inspection. When I was talking to the owner, he said that he watched a few of my videos and he did give me credit because, as you guys can see, the stucco is still installed in the garage, and that's because I always mention in my videos to have the designer install the shear walls on the inside of the ADU. Hopefully this one tip is helpful for homeowners who are hiring one company to build the entire thing, because those companies, they don't care about saving the client money. They just want to do as much work as possible to justify their high estimate. Just to give you an example, if the stucco was removed on this project, we're talking about labor, we're talking about trash, the cost to remove the trash, installing the stucco again. Roughly in this market you can save somewhere between $10,000 to $15,000 by just having the shear walls be installed on the inside of your ADU. If you guys need someone to help you draw the plans for your ADU, get in contact with Natalie. Natalie can help you draw the plans, submit them to the city, and get them approved. The best way to get in contact with Natalie is by going over to the website, submit an inquiry, and that's it. Natalie will take care of the rest. And by doing that, you will be executing step one towards building your ADU. I've gone to many of these projects and I still find it hard to believe that all this is happening because of the contacts that I know and the website that I put together to help owner builders build their ADU. The project behind me is being built by Elias, and I'm gonna make an entire video about his process because it's very interesting. But when I was talking to the homeowner, he said that he watched a few of my videos, he got his plans approved, and then he started to get estimates for someone to build the project. At the end, he decided to do it by himself. He went on my website, he got in contact with Elias. Elias provided an estimate, and here we are. Elias has just finished the framing for this project and is ready for the rough framing inspection. Let's begin the tour. I'm gonna switch over to my GoPro. The quality is going to be horrible because I lost my DJI camera. That thing was super expensive and I only bought it because of the comments. Everybody was saying that the quality was horrible, so I upgraded. Now I lost it, now I have to use this again. If you guys wanna help me buy another camera and you find my videos helpful, there's gonna be a link down below. You can donate $1, I don't know, whatever you may want. And I'll have a nice camera. In order to pass the rough framing inspection, the city inspector will want to know if you have a continuous footing around the garage. And the best way to find out if your garage has a footing is to actually excavate, remove the soil, get a tape measure, and the concrete going down should be about 12 inches or 24, depending on what city you live in. But if you have a footing or a foundation, you'll be able to save $5,000 per side. On this property, there is a footing around the garage. The only section where it did not have a consistent footing was right below the garage door. This is a new foundation that Elias poured for the ADU. We have 12 inches going down, and then this little section here is the curb, and to make sure that the rain doesn't go into the ADU. One of the first inspections that you're going to go through before the concrete is poured is that the city inspector wants to see an epoxy certificate. And the reason is because this is the old footing and this is the new footing, and in order to join them together you need to go through a process. Rebar needs to be installed along with epoxy, and to make sure that it's done right, you're going to hire an epoxy deputy inspector. He's going to be here when the work is being done to witness the actual installation of the epoxy and how they mix it. If it's done right, he's going to give you a certificate. Once you get that certificate, you do not pour the concrete. You have to call the city inspector to come in and do an inspection. to make sure that the rebar is installed right, and you have that certificate. If you have that certificate and the work is done properly, he'll sign it off and he will give you the okay to pour the concrete. Once the concrete is installed and it's dry, then it's time to do the framing. We have some pressure treated lumber right over here with anchor bolts. These are the guys that are inside the foundation and is going to hold the framing together in case of an earthquake. And the city inspector will check that these are installed per plan. I think these are maybe 36 and these are probably 16, and this did pass the inspection. In addition to the anchor bolts being installed on the new footing, they also have to be installed in the existing construction of the garage. Most garages of this age will not have anchor bolts installed, so the property has to be retrofitted. For example, we have anchor bolts here, here, there, and 2 more on that side, and these anchor bolts have to be installed in the same way the rebar was installed over here. There's epoxy inside the hole that was drilled. Epoxy is pumped inside, and then the anchor bolt goes right on top. And once the anchor bolt is installed inside the footing, you finish it off with a plate and your washer. Another thing that you will be required to install on the ADU is your hold downs. These are Simpson hold downs. They may be HDU4 or HDU5, but they have to be installed in every corner and sometimes where you have maybe a window, such as right here. This is another hold down, once again with the epoxy, and as you can see, is right next to a window. When it comes time to the ceiling joist, every set of plans has a graph, and that graph tells you the kind of ceiling joists that are approved by the state of California to install, not just in an ADU, but in framing overall for a home addition or a new house. And basically the way that the type of joist that you're going to use is explained is based on the span. The span of this ADU is 20 feet, and based on that graph, the framer had to use a 2x10 ceiling joist, and those are installed in the entire ADU. For this ADU, the ceiling joists did not have to be cut at the ends, they were just installed as is. But not all ADUs are going to be like this. For my ADU, we had to cut the end of it in order for the ceiling joist to fit the pitch of the roof. Now, if you cut too much of the ceiling joist, and most of the time you can only cut about 25% of it, the inspector won't approve the framing. So just be careful if the framer is going to cut the ceiling joist to make sure that they don't cut more than 25% of the piece of wood, because if they do, then that will trigger a correction on the framing. Right on this side we have a window and a door, and right above that we have straps, and these straps are to hold together the building in case of an earthquake, and they are required to pass the framing inspection. We have another one on this side, another one right over here, and then on this side we have another door with more straps that are required. Before any framing can begin on an ADU, the very first thing that is going to be on the checklist is the plumbing. There's pipes inside the new footing, and these have to be installed at the very beginning. Another thing that needs to be installed is the plumbing wall. This plumbing wall was finished yesterday, and then the plumber came in and he started doing his thing to make sure that the plumbing is installed properly. So they have to work in tandem. Framing, then the plumbing, then the electrical. Once you pass all those inspections, then you have the insulation and the shear walls. Every ADU requires access to the attic, and this is what we have right here. One of the things that people don't know is that you need to have your Simpson hangers on the attic access space in order to pass the inspection. When I did my ADU, I didn't have those installed, and the city inspector was super nice and said, install the hangers and you're gonna be in good shape. So I went out to Home Depot, bought the hangers and did it myself. But now you guys know to install the hangers, and basically what that equals to is saving time. I lost a week installing these. But if you're watching the video and you're ready to call for the framing inspection and you don't see these guys installed, you're going to lose time. And by watching this video, I guess the goal is to save people some time on little mistakes that could happen. And it does happen all the time. Sometimes a framer sends his guy, the guy tells the homeowner that the work is done, but they missed one hanger. Just because you don't have one hanger, you're gonna have to reschedule an inspection, and that'll cost you time. I'm gonna show you guys something that people don't really think about when framing an ADU. And the only reason why these are installed is because Elias is also doing the drywall. But what this little piece of wood is gonna do is when the sheets of drywall are installed, they're going to install some screws right over here. And another example of that is this tiny little corner. There's a piece of lumber sticking out, so when they install the drywall, there's somewhere to install a screw. And those are the little things that some framers think about, some framers don't. But at the end of the day, if this little piece of wood is not there, the drywall is going to be sagging. And I guarantee you, when it's time to do the drywall, those guys are going to be super fast and they're not going to bother installing a piece of lumber. They're not framers, they're drywall guys. So long story short, maybe a year or 2 years later, the drywall may or may not be sagging a little bit. And all that could be avoided by installing this little piece of wood at the corner. This next step that I'm going to talk about is optional depending on the condition of the asphalt saturated paper, which is a waterproof membrane between the stucco and the wood. Since the stucco is going to remain, what Elias did is that he installed red guard behind the stucco all over the place to make sure that the water doesn't go into the ADU. And then on top of that, he installed asphalt paper as another barrier. And he did that across the entire ADU. That one extra step takes this ADU to the next level because you're adding a moisture barrier between the stucco and the insulation. And from my previous videos, people were asking, what about the other side of the 2x4? Well, let me show you the current stage of a 2x4 where a section of the stucco was removed. So you can see that it's in really good condition and you don't need to add red guard to the other side. This is the 2x4. This is the red guard. There's no moisture. It's in great shape. So you don't have to add red guard to the other side. They're just adding the asphalt paper because it's already exposed. And if it's already exposed, it doesn't hurt to add another layer of protection. Now remember guys, in this video, I'm only talking about the rough framing. I'm not talking about the rough to pass the final. The last step for the framing is going to be the installation of the shear walls inside the ADU. In order to pass your final, you're gonna need to pass your plumbing, your electrical, the insulation has to be installed, and then the last thing is to install the shear walls. Once the shear walls go up, then the city inspector gives you okay to install the drywall, and you're basically 60% done with your project. I spoke with the homeowner and he said that he's using another company from my website, and that person happens to be Sam. He's going to be working on this project to do the electrical, and I think that whoever you end up hiring, in my opinion, first, the person that you're going to be working with for a month or 2 months has to give you a sense of calm. If you're doing this as an owner builder, you want to make sure that the professional working on your ADU knows the codes, because if he doesn't, you're going to be stuck in limbo. But if you hire someone who only does ADUs, you don't have to worry about that. The project will be working itself in autopilot. And I think the best feeling is to have peace of mind. You don't have to be worried about the little things. Is it going to pass the electrical? Is it going to pass the framing? It will, because the person that you're hiring knows exactly what to do in any situation. In regards to how much is all this going to cost the homeowner, Elias is giving the homeowner a really good deal. He is doing the footing, he's doing the framing, he's going to be taking away all the trash, he's installing the insulation, the windows, the doors, and he's going to install the drywall. For all that work, Elias is charging, I think, either $44,000 or $45,000, somewhere in between. He is basically taking the project from 0 all the way to 60%. The other 40 is going to be the rough electrical, the rough plumbing, your kitchen, and your bathroom. And especially if you're doing this by yourself, if you have someone to do all that for you, it'll take some weight off your shoulders, and once again, you will have peace of mind. That's it for this video. Hopefully you guys learned just a bit more about what it takes to build your ADU as an owner builder, or even if you're hiring a company, you know the steps that they have to take in order to pass the inspection. I think I'm going to stick around for this project and film it from what it is now all the way to the end. It takes a lot of time to put one video together, so I would really appreciate it if you guys like the video and maybe subscribe. I'm also going to leave a link somewhere down below. Because this camera sucks, the audio is not that great, the quality is super low. So if you guys want to donate something to help me buy a new DJI, I would really appreciate that. Thank you, and I'll see you guys on the next one.